In what had become a yearly and always losing battle in the legislature, changing the Constitution and mandating voter ID in Nebraska is now a street fight. State Senator Julie Slama leading a petition drive to put voter ID on the ballot in November. A Slama petition gatherer telling me this week she's getting $4 a signature, and people are signing on.
Maybe 7.
7 out of 10 signed it?
7 out of 10 have signed, yes, today. Because they do agree with having to present their ID.
Echoing what Slama has said for more than a year.
Many have said that they have always thought that voter ID should be required in elections and do not understand why this wasn't already in place when a valid ID is required to drive, purchase cold medicine or spray paint, or even to see an R-rated movie.
Walk with me through my community, and you have elders who vote every election. And it will be difficult, if not impossible, for them to get ID. If it's not broke, don't fix it. It's not broke.
The argument that if voting security isn't broke, don't fix it, is based on years and years of local and state election officials insisting that there is no vote fraud in Nebraska.
In all the years that we've followed this process, we have not had any examples of systemic fraud.
Following the 2020 election, Republican Secretary of State Bob Evnen issued a lengthy report targeting what he called myths, one specifically noting that hundreds of affidavits have been collected in Nebraska proving voter fraud. Evnen countering that the Secretary of State's office has received no affidavits from any organization. To the extent they can be tracked, the bits and pieces we have seen are not correct. And most recently, the man in charge of elections in the state's most populous county, Douglas County Election Commissioner Brian Cruz, said election fraud is essentially non-existent. But during that public hearing last year, Senator Slama attempted to turn that no vote fraud message upside down.
Yes, voter fraud happens even here in Nebraska. In 2017, 2 Lexington men were convicted of voting multiple times in the 2016 elections.
That specific case involved these 2 men who, according to these court records, were charged with voting more than once. During an investigation by News Channel Nebraska, the men's attorney said all this was a simple misunderstanding. That back in 2016, when the 2 men who struggled with English went to register to vote, they also actually voted, though they didn't realize it. So a few weeks later, when they went to their polling place and voted, that second vote was flagged. And the men were charged with a Class 4 felony, the possible punishment, a maximum 2 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. But in the end, the 2 were convicted of a misdemeanor and fined $100. No conviction for felony vote fraud.
I'm not a lawyer yet.
Given our information concerning the 2 men in Lexington, News Channel Nebraska has repeatedly tried to ask Senator Slama if she still considers that a case of vote fraud. Senator Slama has never gotten back to us. In addition, according to the Secretary of State, those 2 Lexington votes were the only 2 cases of questionable votes raised in 2016, 2 out of 860,000 votes cast across the state. In Omaha, Joe Jordan, News Channel Nebraska.